Welcome, everyone. I am so glad that you are here with us today. My name is Naomi Harm, and I'm actually joining you from beautiful Cave Creek, Arizona. I live currently about 40 miles above Phoenix, Arizona, but I also live approximately, if you think of our Los Angeles school districts in California, I live about 4.5 hours east, you could say, of that location. So I have to go west to get to all of you. Many of our California teachers are on today, so I absolutely love it. We are going to make this class interactive today. So those of you that have just joined us, if you could go to joinpd.com and then put in the 5 characters of PB, Q, K, and B, and then everybody will have that opportunity to get in. Just in case if there's any other teacher friends that join us after the fact, please feel free to actually invite them with this as well. The character code will always be showcased. They just need to joinpd.com to get to everything. And I will make sure to share out my main slide deck once again, which is not a problem at all. Okay, so let's get started. So I'd like to share with you again that our focus of today's topic is students as creators of their futures during and post COVID-19. And we already know from being an administrator, from being a teacher or a lead teacher, whether you're teaching your staff or whether you're teaching your students, we have learned a lot during this remote learning time. But we also have learned a lot of some things that have not gone so well. So what can we do to empower these kids to be creators of their futures and help us be empowered as teachers with a robust, blended teaching learning environment moving futuristically? Now, I know many of our California schools, you will be starting out fully remote or online from my understanding what I was told the other day. We have other parts of the country that have not been as impacted, kind of like our Midwest in general, haven't been as impacted yet, but it's coming for them. And they're going to start out face to face or as a blended model. So I'm hoping that these particular scenarios that I share with you today can help you be more comfortable and confident moving forward. So a few other things I wanted to share with you, as you can see here, that my name is Naomi Harm. I am very much a women in leadership strategist. I do a lot of mentoring and coaching with women and girls when it comes to STEM. And I absolutely love STEM integrated into everything that we do for the hands-on learning experiences to build that lifelong learning confidence for our students. Feel free at any time. You can contact me through Twitter. You can contact me through my website. Love to continue the conversation with you. The other thing is I do have the link to the URL to the slide deck, and I added it to the back channel chat. So in case if you just joined us, please feel free to tap into that link and I will share it again. Now, I wanted to provide for you some background context of kind of where we're going today with all of this and the bigger picture. And the big picture that we'll be sharing today is that we are going to be reviewing the why for Generation Z high school students and how they learn best, and actually some practices that I've been working and co-facilitating with teachers nationwide. What we've learned that has not worked, and moving forward, what we need to do. We also will be looking at what's working, what's not working, but also some new strategies that can cover the gambit for basically K through 12. And then again, we're going to be looking at best practices for remote teaching and learning, but more student-centered and career-focused frameworks. So going ahead, I just wanted to share a little background context first about Generation Z. And those are our kids right now that are in our classrooms that are really focusing on our upper elementary, our middle school, and high school generation of students. Those of you that have participated in the past, we've covered a little bit about this in the past, but I always want to reiterate it so that we best understand these kids who are in our school districts right now. They are truly the most diverse generation of learners in our world. But what I find fascinating, and especially when I talk with middle school and high school students, they really trust interacting and talking with their peers more than they do for us as teachers or administrators or even their own grandparents. That's what I find amazing. But these kids really want to help contribute to a greater world of good. They want to be an active participant and a solutionist to solve their world's problems. These kids have really stepped up to the plate right now about our pandemic, and some have really created some interesting code and 3D design options to support the PPE that our healthcare workers and our communities need. And they really have this entrepreneurial mindset that they want to own their own business. If you look at the research that comes out from, it's called tomorrows.org, it's from the National Speak Up Survey. Anywhere between 74 to 82% of high school kids right now say that they want to own their own type of business one day. And when you think about that and think of our pandemic that we're in, I'm thinking it's going to be more of a reality than we think of, because we need this group of this generation of children to come up and problem solve and to help us so that we do not have to face another pandemic that we're currently in. And I think they are going to be very much future forward thinking individuals. And they're going to be focusing on like a design thinking process of always of the what ifs and what can they change, and have a focus on a problem solving strategy. And they're going to think differently of how to approach complex situations. So I think these kids are really going to be forward future thinkers, and they're going to be the game changers that we need. Now, these kids too, it's very interesting when I talk to parent groups. The parents say that these kids that are upper elementary, middle school, and high school, they want to be part of the conversation at home. Even if some of the conversations are a little bit more confidential, the kids just want to be there and listen and learn and actually put in their 2 cents. And I'm sure that you have seen this as well. Now, some other things that I'd like to share with you, but due to our time constraints today, and Paradeck works well, but not quite with the playback of our video clips yet in this environment, but they're working on that. This is an embedded PowerPoint, as you can see, with the video clip embedded. And this will be an extension video that you can tap into. And it's very interesting coming from CBSN of the impact that the coronavirus right now has made on this generation of Z of students. Because these kids are already from our parents and groups of parents that they were struggled and lost their job due to the first recession. When we think back in 2006 and 2007 and 2008. And now what they're already seeing is, oh my gosh, this is happening in a different manner, but a similar manner. And how do we reinvent, how we learn, how we work together? So it's a very interesting perspective. And these kids in general are going to have to work longer in their lifetime than what we do. So when we look at our lifetime, and what if I am a teacher that's been in education for 25 years, and if I still choose to work between 62 and 65, that's great. But this group of Generation Z students, they're going to have to work until they're at least 70, if not 72, to recoup the type of income to sustain themselves into retirement age. So that's a pretty critical factor that they have to think about. And because when we talk about the workforce, and I'm going to give you more examples of workforce of what we can do to guide these kids to be future ready, but this is what I find fascinating. 40% of the jobs that currently exist will be obsolete by 2030. That's only 10 years from now. I mean, that's crazy, right? But these are types of jobs that can be automated with an algorithm, the backbone support of computer science, and also chatbots and other types of robotics. But the other interesting statistic is that our kids that are our upper level up Generation Z students, that are those ages from 18 to 34, which includes the millennials, their process of their jobs will also be automated by 2030. And that means 15 million workers are going to be in that group that their jobs are going to be automated. So these particular individuals is that they really have to be welcome the opportunity to be more flexible in their thinking, adapting to the workforce environment, be able to quickly pivot and change what they're doing to accommodate to the next need that they're faced at their workplace environment. And again, the statistics that I've mentioned throughout my presentations that I've done here for Microsoft is that the expected shift is now going to be only 48% human facing, and now 52% is going to be dominating the workforce with a machine algorithm-based workforce by 2025. I mean, that means that we need creative individuals that can code, have a strong computer science background, can also be the human-facing individuals that can communicate and collaborate and solve some of these world problems, yet at the same time can create a final digital product that can run more efficiently and productively with that machine algorithm-based tool or resource. These statistics also are coming from the Future of Work in America report, and that is done about every 18 to 24 months. And it keeps us up to date of where the job placements are and the current research on the market. Now, at this time, I have a question for you, and I'm going to refresh the screen in just a minute so that you can type in it. But I want you to think about what jobs can you relate to that have been automated in the last 5 years that in the past you had to do, you had to collaborate, you had to communicate, but now a system is in place that it's automated. So I'm going to give you a few tips in a minute, but I want to allow your voice to be heard. So I'm going to insert right on the fly a wonderful little tool for you. Okay, and that you should be able to, at this time, type into the box off to the side that you'll have. It'll say, what jobs can you relate to that have been automated in the last 5 years? So I'll pause so you can have some think time and some response time. Those of you just joining us, thank you so much. I have Sean, I have Greenie, I have Kari or Carrie, Jana or Jana, Susan, and Susan as well, that she's part of this, okay? Those of you that have just joined us, you can go to joinpd.com and enter the 5-digit code of the PBQKB. And that's going to help you get into this interactive conversation that we'll have with Pear Deck that's embedded into the Microsoft Office tools today. And I'll put it in the back channel chat so that you have it to make sure that you know where to go. And then I'll show our reflections in just a minute. So joinpd.com, and then the code is PBQKB. Okay, there you go. Well, I have 6 out of the 8 responses, and we got about 2/3 or a little bit more. So let's see what we're coming up with. The responses that I see at this time, yes, okay, bank tellers and cashiers, toll booths, that's right. And keep typing, I see more coming in. I just went through a toll booth on one of my trips just recently, just on the outskirts of Arizona. And actually, I had to pick up my own card. I had to check in. They gave me a card that I went through. And then on the other end of the toll, it just scanned my card and away I went. There was nobody in the toll booth collecting money or anything. So it totally was a QR code system. That was really interesting. Trash collection. Oh, yeah, that's phenomenal. We're seeing more robotics and different types of self-driving trucks right now, right? Checkouts. A lot of our grocery stores are going that way. Yes, the phone answering services. When we think of school systems, right now, when I call like your particular school, I have to call in and I'm greeted by an automated answering machine. I have to click in or type in 5 different numbers or different push buttons before I can talk to a human being. Sometimes I don't care for that. I still would like to talk to a human being, but I understand the process to get us to the right person. That's right. Shopping, yes, shopping is the biggest one right now. Filling out report cards and finding grading point averages with online report cards. Yes, that's been more automated, isn't it? So thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, Walmart robot takes inventories. Do you know, when I was over in Denmark in November, I was presenting for Lego Education, and we got to go through actually where they make all of the Lego bricks. It was phenomenal. They too had Lego robots. I should say Lego. They had real robots that actually did all of the inventory, all the packaging, all the sorting and then wrapping them up and then placing them into a stacked point before they took them off to ship them. I was just amazed. But it took a brilliant individual, right, to come up with that system and that algorithm to make it work. That's where we need to prepare our kids. We need a type of game strategy to help our kids think differently of solving today's world problems. And that's where we need a strong computer-based workforce. Absolutely. I'm going to hide these responses at this time, and I'm going to go back to our main slide deck at the time and give you a few more tools. Now, I just put a collection together for you. These are automated jobs in just the last 5 years. And some of you have already presented and said, yes, this is what you've seen. Customer service, especially in school and also call centers. Mortgage payments, from checking deposits to online banking. That's right. Food service, self-directed kiosks have replaced humans. Even let's just say if you went into a fast food restaurant, sometimes I will go in or I should say previous to COVID, if I just wanted to get a quick coffee, and I know that I could get a coffee at like McDonald's or you go to Dunkin' Donuts or whatever, but what was interesting, you would go in and you're greeted basically by a kiosk and you touch tap, put in what you want, scan and pay, and then you go out to the cup station. Sometimes somebody would give you a cup, other times a robot would basically automate and give you that cup. And then you'd go through the touch system and fill your own coffee. So everything's been streamlined. Hospitality and tourism is really changing the way that we're doing vacations and worldwide travel. But yet, during our COVID situation, we're seeing more individuals are going camping and exploring our big, beautiful United States of America right now by travel and tourism, but still trying to socially distance and stay safe. Online shopping has probably been the biggest explosion that we've seen. It is just largely done by not only our own students, our children, our grandparents now. It's been amazing what's taken place. And moving forward, it's only going to get better. It's going to streamline and it will probably become more personalized in some manner. Now, here's another suggestion. And a question to ask of you, but how do we even prepare our students for post-COVID-19 futures with constant change? Because if everything's changing so quickly, how do we prepare our students for that type of learning experience in our classroom? So the most important thing that we can do as educators, because we don't know necessarily what the future world of opportunity is going to be, we can kind of see a trajectory, but at the same time, we don't know all the possibilities. So because of that, that's where we as teachers really need to model and develop an adaptive emotional intelligence mindset for our students. We have to model that to help our kids to constructively debate, to actively listen to understand, to have creative conversations, and to create and make. But the opportunity to try something, and even if it does not work out, understanding that failure is an option and it is okay because I can go back and make it 10 times better than I did the first time. We also need to demonstrate and actively listen to understand. And there's a reason why we have two ears to listen and one mouth to speak, right? So because of that, we should be listening twice as much, processing that information and understanding by design of gaining empathy from a new perspective from someone else, and then sharing out our collective intelligence of the meaningfulness of what we've gained from that conversation or that new background knowledge that somebody shared with us. And that's why it's really important. We have to model, what does critical thinking look like? What does problem solving look like? And what do we do to persevere? How do we help students stick with it, even though they become so frustrated? What does that look like? And that's really where we also should be modeling empathy-based communication and collaboration. And kids don't know what it looks like if we're not modeling it. So we really have to have a digital toolbox full of tips and tricks that go along with inquiry-based learning. What does empathy-based communication look like? What types of different questions do I as a teacher now ask that are more thought-provoking, that can dive deeper into the content, but also allow our kids to socially collaborate more frequently? And the last thing as well, as it always has been, but now it's extremely heightened due to this pandemic, is that we need to continually to learn on a continuum as a lifelong learner. Our kids have got to be totally adaptable and flexible in their thinking and their types of credentials or micro credentials moving forward with their educational career. And what that means is that no longer will a child go off, let's say, into an education degree and think that I'm going to be a teacher for 30 years. That's no longer going to be. They may still be in the world of education, but they're going to be earning many micro credentials or certifications to improve their skill set so they stay up with the changing times and to future proof their longevity of their career as well, so that they are relevant, they're up to speed on the change of the times, but they are impacting our future generations to be successful. So when they do graduate from that K through 12 teaching and learning environment. This information is coming from the World Economic Forum and the research, and those statistics are put out each and every year. Now, I put together a collection for you that when I was co-working with ISTE, which is the International Society for Technology and Education, I do a lot of global presentations for them. And prior to COVID, I was doing a lot of face-to-face presentations globally for them. What we've put together, because I gave a keynote speech in British Columbia in Canada, is that we were really looking at the bigger picture. What does the career look like for a student that graduates now as a Gen Z student, and what types of jobs will exist by 2030? What types of job tasks, and what are the market potentials? So this particular document, and I have it linked in, that I have about 25 different job cards based on future ready statistics and even our current technology today that is reflective of what we're even going through with the pandemic, what we need to just catapult into the future to help us solve our big world challenges. And these particular job cards are really going to be, you could say, utilized to help students think about the possibilities of how their job's going to be extremely flexible and it will continue to change. Not only do I have these job cards, I have the descriptions that go along with them so that you know what this looks like. But one of my favorites, like I said, there's like 25 card sets I put together from the research. I love the Chief Experience Officer. I think every one of us should have that job title. That means that we are creating learning experiences that are so robust, so engaging, so thought-provoking that your students want to come to the table or lean in to your online sessions or if you're face-to-face. And that experience will help your students develop a positive growth mindset and then pursue their future dreams or their visions of what the potential career will be to help and guide their future careers. So there are so many different cards that are in here. It's really interesting, but we are looking future ready forward. When we look at our climate specialist, you'll see the career and life coach, because we're going to be seeing a lot more online, and we've got to find a better way with all of this technology and information overload coming at us. So tap into those cards. You can take them, copy them, share them with your school district team members and students, but have the conversation with your students more so than ever. So in that last tidbit of information, I would just like to know, how does Generation Z students learn to bring out their best learning potential? So how do you think now, learning about the new Generation Z that I just gave you information on, how do you think they learn to bring out their best learning potential? Or what have you seen from your own students? So I'm going to add in a new text card, and now you'll be able to respond. So you could share something about that you just learned about Generation Z, or those that you're currently working with right now. How do you see them learning and bringing out their best learning potential as a student? have about half of you that have responded. I'll give you just a little bit more wait time before we continue on. Okay, I'll show some of our responses that have come in so far. Yes, the short attention spans. It's right, isn't it? It truly is that they're very small, and that's why less is more right now. And our students, they do need lots of visuals. Their perception of what they see in their frontal lobe of their brain is the visualization that helps them bring about their prior memory and their background learning experiences to formulate the idea or their comprehension of a concept. So visuals are very important. For them to see, watch, and do is also really important. And then usually the words that go along with that follow. Gamified learning, yes. When I talk with our middle school, high school kids, those kids are like, I just want to have something that's a challenge. I want it gamified, but I also want to do things singly sometimes too. That's really good. And need more choice and personalized options, absolutely. Instead of us always giving an assignment with it's just a one and done and that's it, we should at least give them one, two, or three options, which still shows what they know, but in a different types of sensory modality that really meets their type of learning needs. Yeah, they are very social right now. Many kids want to work in groups, but there's still a few kids that, they say, I want to have my own think time too. Yes, the project-based learning approach, I think moving forward is really important, and design thinking process and even the engineering design process is really important. Flipped classrooms where the teacher is the facilitator more than the lecturer, that's absolutely true. Sometimes some of our children say right now that I'm zoomed out to death, or I've watched so many Microsoft Teams, or I've watched so many Google Meets. Remember that when you're creating content, if your student has 5 or 6 different teachers and now everybody's recording everything and they have to watch a video and respond, that becomes quite boring. I've even heard our college students say they're just bored with college this last few months because that's what all the teachers did. They just record and then they had to respond. Make those choice boards really interactive and engaging. Have just a couple videos to build the background knowledge and connect the learning dots, but then give them challenges and design tasks that they can show what they know, that they can create. They can create the video, they can create the podcast, or they can make and do with recycled supplies to show what they know. Yeah. Yeah, they want to create products, and that design thinking process is really, really important. And again, project-based, inquiry-based, and passion-based learning is a must moving forward. It is. Thank you so much for sharing your responses. I greatly appreciate it, everyone. So here's just a few things that you've already connected the dots with. Small, snackable, bite-sized chunks are a must. Less is more here. No longer do we sit in front of the classroom and lecture, lecture, lecture. We actually can give 5 to 7 minutes of new information. Then we should allow for about 3, 4, or 5 minutes of processing time with either a quick write, a reflection, a think, pair, share, a dynamic duo meetup with another teammate, a breakout room, something that they can collaborate and just dig deeper into that content and connect the learning dots, as I said earlier, so kids can apply that new understanding. Then from there, give them 3, 4, or 5 problems. And those problems allow them to make, do, and tinker. They can watch that problem, they can pause that video, they can demonstrate and apply, and then they can create something new. The more time that you balance out less direct instruction, but more doing and applying the real world application, kids are now going to ask more questions. They want to help lead or peer coach another student, but they love the discussion part of that, and making time for that social share is what's really important. Just a few other things, excuse me, just a few other things in regards to this too, is that, here, just a minute, please. I'm sorry, I just swallowed wrong apparently. But our Generation Z students really do learn best in small collaborative groups. And I know many of you, and especially our teachers from California that you're here with me, or my teachers in Nevada and Utah, it was been amazing that you have told me that you've got classroom sizes of 40, 50, and 60 kids in a classroom. I'm just like, I don't know how you do it. Bless your souls, because I don't know how you do it with that many children, and how do you personalize that learning? But if you can, with that many children, still break them into smaller groups, because that will allow for you to connect with the small groups instead of individually trying to get to everybody in that block period of time, or that 48 minutes that you normally have. We do need time to allow for those kids to have individual time to process and reflect. And that's the game changer. Sometimes we as educators move through the content too quickly because we've got to get through the curriculum. And what happens is that our kids that may be already behind or have a different type of Lexile reading level that is below grade level, they're going to fall further behind. We need to build in more chunks of processing time, discussion time so kids can connect the learning, and then documentation by reflection or creating. Again, you've already hit the nail on the head. Many of you said we need more choice for personalized learning pathways, and we need more project-based and passion-based interest projects that should be related to their world. A few other things, and then I'm going to give you some more examples, is that anything that you can do to gamify or offer design and make your challenge, your students will love. And add different types of sensory modalities. It doesn't always have to be creating a video. It could be creating a podcast. It could be creating and making a sketch note. It could be designing the next great PPE to help the healthcare industry in your local community. It could be creating a gratitude journal, and a journal that could be shared with all of your learners. And students that create these final documents, they get a chance to share out their good deeds with others. But if we could help and assist and aid of helping our students to think like an entrepreneur and design like an engineer, we're going to get so much further ahead in our education than anywhere before, because we need critical thinkers and problem solvers to help us. Like even now in this challenge of the pandemic, we've got to create these kids that are going to come up with these just extraordinary ideas and make them become a reality. And as we know, they do want to support real world causes, and they want to be active participants and solutionists in their learning. So let's look at these life skills and readiness skills that I think are going to really help you to help our students be creators of their futures. Now, some things that I just learned about recently, if you haven't seen these next two tools, I think I'm just going to probably just blow your mind with them. I just learned about this today, and I've added this in here as of this morning. This is called Remo. Remo is an online conferencing tool to connect teams in virtual environments. But Remo also, besides workplace environments, designs environments that you can connect through virtual online conferences. So here's just a snapshot to give you of the learning. So there's like 3 people in this chat right now. At the very bottom, when you come on board, you get to sit at a table. You sit in a duo, a trio, or a quad, or you can have larger setups. Then when more people join, you can see that those 3 people are together. They can chat via video, text, or also audio. Now, there's a big conference that's taking place that Carl Hooker shared out today about, and they are using this environment to connect everybody that's coming in virtually. This is a new look and feel to humanize basically online learning. People, we want to connect with others. We have that empathy-based learning that we want to see the facial expressions. We want to be close to one another. This is what it's going to look like for the future of work for our students and for some of us now in education. Another tool, this is called Walkabout Office. If you haven't seen this, this is quite dynamic too. Some of our startup companies actually in California right now are using this tool to connect when they're all remote employees, when no longer does a startup have a physical location and everybody is doing remote learning. This is just a scenario that I snapshotted the screen so that you could see, because if you could have your real picture inserted in there, but for the actual demonstration. So you as a learner, you get to create your own environment. So I have my home office that I'm presenting with today. I can create my home virtual office in an online space, kind of like all the teachers that are creating the Bitmoji classrooms. It's something very similar like this. Then you can connect with friends and colleagues and then discuss, business proposals, school layouts, remote learning plans, and so on. Some of our school boards are having meetings like this too, that they're coming together. You can also set up your environments that you get a 3D landscape that it looks like a virtual office or a school, but then there's also a breakout room for lunch and, an area that you could socialize and things like that. So again, putting that human touch back into the virtual world. So this is called Walkabout. Walkabout and also the previous one that I just shared, the workplace environments of Remo, both are getting about a 5.0 out of a 5.0 star usage right now. So I'm really watching as an educational technologist to see where this is going. There's a pretty price tag that comes along with this too, but I think futuristically in our educational environments, it's going to look a lot like this, that how we socially connect and can be together and collaborate with one another. A few other things, if you're looking for some tools, these are some great tools to share with your students, especially when it comes to financial literacy and when students are preparing for their next educational adventure when they graduate from K through 12. Invest in What's Next is really a course for your future. And it really helps students plan that if they want to start off being a business entrepreneur, if they want to get a certificate, if they want to get an associate's degree, or if they want to get a full college degree. Where is that going to take them based on which type of career they choose? What's going to be their cost of living plan? How much do I budget for if I need to budget for Lyft and Uber to get a ride? Or do I rent a car or do I buy a car? Or how do I have my food plan and my insurance that I got to pay for? And so on. I love this because it really puts a real world perspective in the hands and the eyes of students so they are not reality shocked when they leave the home of mom and dad, because that's what's also going to change. We hear about a lot of our sons and daughters that live at home, which some do, and they have many blended families and multi-generational families. But we have kids that are 40 years old, and I call them kids because they're still living at home in their mom and dad's basements. That's also going to shift and change. That's going to be from the past. What can we do to help our kids really take that ownership? And that's where Generation Z, and when we say Generation Alpha, Alpha are our students that have been born since 2011 and futuristically until 2025. And Alpha is going to take charge and they want to run their life. They don't want to run it from their mom and dad's basements, and they don't want to stay at home with mom and dad. They're going to have different types of creative pods and communities that they're going to be living in. Another great tool, this is coming out of San Francisco, California. And I learned about this tool when I was the educational strategist, when I helped Dell EMC and Wonder Workshop with their educational plan. What I love about this, it empowered me as a woman leader to mentor and give back to many of our children around the nation. You as a teacher can sign up for Career Village and add your students into this very ethical, safe portal. And people like myself, as an educational technologist and STEM innovation specialist, I mentor in here, meaning that students will come up and ask questions about what they're interested in futuristically of the different types of job markets that are out there. We also have individuals in here from NASA. We have different types of neuroscientists and doctors and nurses that give of their time in here. We have major computer corporations. We have startup companies, you name it. But these are individuals that people give back to the community and want to help invest within Generation Z and our Alpha kids to help them with a flexible directionality, but giving them sound quality advice. And again, 100% free. You probably have already seen this and you've already tapped into this doing your remote learning time, but Coursera high school courses are phenomenal. There are free courses and then there's also paid for courses. As an example, my godniece who just graduated from her school in Northeast Iowa, due to their situation in that particular state, They didn't do a lot for the kids at the middle school, high school. They just kind of let them do their own thing because they felt they couldn't meet the needs of our students with differing abilities. And so, to the equity standpoint, kids were kind of on their own. So, parents were a tad frustrated to a certain extent. So helping my niece and guiding her, she's very self-motivated and self-directed. So pointing these types of resources out, she could now dig into deeper courses that she was very passionate about that she didn't get offered in her high school. And this really helped her gaining new skill sets. So now when she goes to school actually this fall at Iowa State, she's got already all these other courses as certifications that she's earned to add to her credentials and her resume. So this is another area that's really passion-based for our kids. I also wanted to share with you some culturally responsive classroom practices that if you haven't used, that if you can start implementing to help this group so that students can really focus on being creators of their futures. You probably have heard of this already, but I wanted to mention it, that the Google Arts and Culture, as part of an institute for online learning, really blends multiple ways of learning with fine arts. And sometimes in our school districts, we are also seeing that our specialty classes and our fine arts areas are being cut first before anything else. And at times, as we know, those are the most important and critical learning factors for students to become more globally rounded and having that opportunity to connect global foundation skills and literacy across many diverse populations. So if you haven't, please tap into this. This is absolutely growing by the many resources that are in here that is really student driven by their passions and their interests as well. A few other things I wanted to mention. I saw earlier that you had shared in the chat about project-based learning. Project-based learning is really important moving forward of how we can transform this educational learning system that we're currently in. And we need to help create a future of problem solvers, critical thinkers, and even problem finders. Meaning that we know we have some things that aren't working right, but helping students be problem finders is going to help us with a UDL and backwards design process to actually help with productivity and efficiency in our world. But design thinking is an incredible opportunity in which that students can identify a problem that they want to solve for. But there's the empathy-based learning that's so imperative to this, that it's embedded in all of this so that kids are truly listening and actively listening to understand perspectives, insight, and background knowledge from others. They have to really define what the problem is. They have to do extensive research to do investigations. Then they ideate and prototype an actual product to try to help solve for this problem. And then they test it. And then they test it again. And if they fail, they test it again, and then they reinvent and going back into ideating again. This process helps with all students to persevere. And it models good practice of helping our kids be more active in their learning, better communicators, better collaborators within a team, and solving for a problem to actually help our world to be a much better place. So if you haven't tapped into this, all of these links are embedded into the slide deck, that they're all free resources that I'm providing for you today. Some other things, this is one of by far my favorite tools that I use with high schoolers especially. I use these in the courses that I teach also for pre-service teachers and graduate credit courses. This is called Passion to Purpose Project. This is by the Convergence Lab, and this is out of California as well. What I love about this, it's very purposely created that students and teachers can identify what their passion is, and it gives students a voice. Then it aligns itself also to create a passion to purpose project. So they identify that passion, but they identify what is the purpose of it and what can I do to generate and design questions to inspire yourself to create a final end product. So I did a little screenshot on the side there. It just says, what is your passion? There's 3 little strips that you fill out, and then it comes to make your final purposeful project. So the questions that are asked on the side, it says, really, I am a fan of, I like to spend my time doing this. I am good at, and then so on. So there's a passion. Then the next set of questions talks about a purpose. Then the next question talks about learning outcomes. Then from there, as you can see, mine came out, how might we use graphic design to advocate for women in leadership? It gives us a really big picture of thinking of how to solve for this problem. And what can you do with graphic design to basically advocate of the importance of why we need more women in leadership as a diversified culture to gain better perspectives and input when working within a team. So again, you can change this many times about what your passion is and what your purpose is, but this really gets kids thinking bigger than even just themselves. How does it impact our world of global learners? Again, all free. A few other things that we do need to keep in mind, and we talk about our empathy-based teaching and learning perspective. Many of you have already shared with me, and you said, Naomi, when we go back to school, our main priority is to continue to maintain positive, healthy relationships. And almost all of you that I've talked with in the past have said, we are really focusing on social emotional learning and the health and wellness of each and every child, and that the ethnicity and the diversity that they bring to the learning table is respected, is appreciated, and more awareness is going to be made of how to build a stronger community of learners. I cannot share enough how much that I personally really liked CASEL, which is CASEL. That is the foundational curriculum for social and emotional learning that we build about and bring awareness on self-awareness, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, social awareness, and self-management. We have to help and model this with our students, especially what each of these areas are. Because if they don't, we will not be a productive and empathy-based society, because that's where we're in a world of hurt right now with even our whole political scope. We need more social emotional learning at the forefront and empathy-based learning to understand where everyone's coming from. Now, some of you from California that are on, you'll also know Mr. John Kripko with Education Protocols. This is my go-to, especially for our kids to be creators of their futures, because these final products can really help students investigate a passion, a project, or even a system that they're interested in. But education protocols are instructional lens frames, and basically they engage our students through a protocol that stays consistent. It's just the content or subject area changes on what you teach. It really promotes critical thinking, active listening to understand, collaboration amongst many teams, and also it's very highly creative. Some things to think about for education protocols, and if you haven't followed John Kripko, you have to follow him on Twitter for sure. But he's got all kinds of different templates. And what I love about working with him and the team on this, and actually we've introduced this to many high school teams, and it's worked out really well. But it allows for students to be part of the content lesson creation and design, and it empowers them to research more. It allows them to write more in detail, and they become more passionate about sharing their learning. The other thing is too, this can work for any grade level, any content area. You can use this with even the littles when we talk about pre-K, first, second, third grade. But I really see the game changer when I'm working with upper elementary, middle, and high school. And I've even used this for staff development with teachers in a school district. What I love about it again is it's highly adaptable. And once the individuals that you work with have the protocol down, it's just the content that's changing and they know what the expectation is. So I also included John's brief video clip. So again, you can watch this after the fact due to our time constraint. It's only like a 1.5-minute video clip of what it is. One of my favorite that I use for many different grade levels is called a cyber sandwich. Any best practice that we teach for project-based learning or even design thinking strategies, we want to make sure that we scaffold. So we scaffold that learning in which that we're differentiating it for all of our students of every ability. So the process basically works that there's a section at the very beginning that I can introduce a new concept of what we're learning for that day in the classroom. I provide 1, 2, or 3 pieces of new information that actually the students actively read. And they're going to be using that material that they're going to compare and contrast. They're going to individually write briefly of what they've learned from those 1, 2, or 3 pieces of articles of information. Then they're going to pair share with a student friend. And then they're going to see what's similar, what's different, and what some commonalities about what they understood from that new content that they learned. Then they can create a project from that, and or at the end, the 10 minutes is where students independently reflect on their new learning gains and they connect the learning dots. So each piece of it, the students are responsible, but they're learning together as a collaborative team. Here's an example. If you want to learn more about how will we colonize other planets, you can give 3 different pieces of information. You may have a type of a book that you'll be writing, and this one says, who was George Washington? You may give them the Declaration of Independence. You may actually find a content subject specific book that you have something to cite from there. But kids need to know how to research and know what's an ethical document, what is a valid document, and what is proven to be true with integrity. Then from there, students take notes, quickly write what they've gained, what they've learned. Then they come together, students compare their notes, and then they have another note card that you can create in a PowerPoint or a Google slide deck. And then they put their similarities down. And then they also do their comparisons, what's similar, what was different, and what was their big picture thinking and learning that they gained from it. And then at the very end, then they individually reflect. So students are continually learning not only with a student friend, but also responsible for their time as an individual for your class. Now, I'm going to give a plug here today because I just learned about this and I went out and bought some today, and I got some for some of my teacher friends that I work with. But the Education Protocols Field Guide, the Kindle book e-version today is $2.99 on Amazon. I went out and I actually got 10 of them because for 10, that's about the cost, a little bit more than the cost of the actual paper book. But I'm giving those as teacher gifts for the teachers that I work with consistently. And I tell you, those protocols as lesson frames have really helped me as an educator when I work with students, staff members, and even pre-service teachers on designing creative content that children love to create and make with a team. Okay, a few other things, some real life and global applications I'd like to give you, and then we'll wrap up our webinar today and ask some questions. I know you've been hanging on there, so thanks so much. We also have, if you can get your kids designing, creating, and making, as we mentioned from the beginning about Generation Z, they want to be creators of their futures. So why not provide them real world context? I'd like to see what their inventions are. I'd like to see what they're creating and designing. This one's called Real World Instructables Design Challenges. This has every single subject in there. Kids can actually create their own design challenges too and add them as a step-by-step tutorial. We did a whole class with Makey, which was our little circuitry board in which that we did design challenges. And part of our learning as the final product, each teacher, when he or she earned their inventor boss's badge, is what it was called, they had to create a step-by-step little protocol that went into Instructables about what they created for their new invention using a Makey. So there's a whole section just on Makey. If you're really into robotics, almost every type of robotics is in here. But if you're into making, let's say you're into sewing or weaving or PPE or baking, 3D printing, you name it. The challenges are here. There's wonderful contests for students to earn. There are dollars, but there's also the right tools to get the job done for your classrooms. But it's a great way that they can learn from expertise, but also at time a community of learners who are very passionate about changing the way that we do things in education and to help our world streamline the efficiency and productivity of how we do work. That's what's so wonderful about it. Some other things that if you haven't seen, more design challenges, and this is called the Curiosity Machine Real World Design Challenges. This is actually sponsored by many different types of corporations, but based on the influence of computer science, AI for artificial intelligence, Also, machine learning. They have every single subject area in here. These challenges can last from 5 minutes up to 15 minutes up to an hour. And the best thing yet, they have a whole parent community focus with this too. So you can assign a challenge in here or have students investigate 3 challenges and they choose one that they want to replicate. And then the parents also have the support mechanisms in place. So this would be a great remote teaching and learning project page because it also helps and guides parents too. Some other things that if you haven't, please allow your students to be learning from others. Whether you invite a community expert in, whether you invite a Skype, a scientist, kids love to learn from others. And sometimes that's just the individual that they'd like to learn from. We talked about that they really admire and learn from their peers. But at times, if it's something that they're truly interested in, they want to learn from an expert in that field because they want to know that story of how they got there and the type of product or projects that they're creating to contribute to a greater world of good. There are thousands of different types of scientists within this portal of Skype a Scientist that you could invite a scientist into your classroom every single week, and your students would absolutely love it. Some other things I wanted to support you with. I've been writing this book since March, since the pandemic, since we first found out the beginning of March of what was happening. And I had a lot of teachers, a lot of parents, and a lot of teacher friends just said, Naomi, we need some help. We need some help with finding the best remote teaching and learning projects, opportunities, and interactions. So because of that, I have been helping a lot of high schools in particular helping find virtual internships because the internships that were promised face-to-face this summer all of a sudden been disbanded. So finding the virtual internships. I also have lots of activities in here of how to help your students be solutionists of their future careers. And we need to provide access to learning materials, hands-on learning experiences to build that lifelong confidence and to provide for them the necessary role models. Those 3 avenues of access to learning materials and also the hands-on learning experiences, but also role modeling and mentoring. Those are the 3 most important things that will influence a child's future career to build that confidence, to know that they can be successful and pursue that passion or that dream that they have. I can't thank you enough for joining me today. I know we've got a lot and a little bit of time, and I'm going to pull the screen back in just a minute, but I've got a few other goodies for you. That's why I want to make sure that you get this entire slide deck with all of these tools today. You could always contact me anytime, even outside of our Microsoft office hours. Love to learn with you and love to brainstorm with you what we can do to recreate our educational system. I have my slide deck there, which is tinyurl.com/student future creators, so you can tap into that. I also have some remote learning resources and guides to help you because many of you are going back full-time online and I want you to be successful. So because of that, I did a project with Intel Education with their philanthropic foundation that wrote this in March as well. And I worked with Paige Johnson and an incredible group of master teacher leaders and the Clarity Innovation Company from Washington. We put together best practices of what you can do right now in smaller snackable chunks of activities to get their kids thinking about their futures and designing and creating at home. But we also have a great collection for parents' guides to remote teaching and learning, and also a whole section for students with differing abilities as well. If you haven't seen this, this is from the Wide Open School Resources. This is the Open Educational Movement. This has got so many wonderful different types of choices that are here that you can see live streamed events from other experts. You've got different differentiated activities, everything to do with reading and writing and fluency, from math to science, SEL, you name it, it is here. This is a great choice and almost everything to meet your needs. And once again, I have everything, and I always want to give credit where credit is due. This template I use today is from Slides Mania. If you haven't tapped into those, there's all kinds of free Microsoft PowerPoint and Google Slides that are free to use to energize up your next visual literacy display for your kiddos. Once again, I have everything linked from the tinyurl.com/student-future-creators to get to all of those additional links that I shared with you today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing this particular presentation at this time. And then I'll come back together that if you have questions that we can take some questions from you today. So thanks for hanging in there. I know we had, okay, Jackie and Diana, you joined us. Carrie or Cara, is it, let's see, Granny, I believe it is, and some others. So please, if you have any questions, I would love to learn with you, or let's come up with some strategies to help you. Okay. I'll put in the back channel chat also our link to the presentation again. Some of you had said, could I have that? I said, you bet you can. Let me share that with you. And I'm going to open up the sidebar for you right now. Let's see if it'll come up here again. Mine's just taking just a little bit longer to come up. Okay. Yeah, and I see in the back channel chat, microbits are good and less expensive than Makey Makey. 100% in agreement there. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, let me get back to our, I want to make sure that you get the entirety of the slide deck, but I also want to learn from you because you have some other questions in here and I want to make sure that we can get to them. So I'm going to paste down here now the entirety of that presentation so that you'll get it. Okay, there you go. Okay. Thank you, Yasu. I appreciate your kind words, but together we're better. There's no way we can know it all, but you know what? Sharing these ideas is going to help us be stronger moving forward with education. Yes, the Lego EV3 robotics, that is incredible. Absolutely. Microbits, Makey Makey, that's a game changer. Yeah. Just making sure I didn't miss anybody's questions because I want to make sure that I connect the learning with you. Okay. You're looking for user-friendly strategies. Laura has asked to get some user-friendly strategies and tools to do distance instruction more interactively, since you're going back to 100%. So what I did is I demonstrated a little bit for you how to use Pear Deck. Anytime that you're teaching online, what we're seeing right now is that a lot of our children are not tapping into that, or they feel that they don't want to be part of it, or they don't want to turn their video cameras on. What's really important is setting social class norms for your kids right now. And if you can build those class norms in together, have them be part of building that because they will take more ownership into that.
Right. So I've been doing a lot of distance instruction PDs, and basically I'm trying to get other teachers to do this too, where at the beginning we set just like you would do in your classroom, but it's just going to be a little awkward. But doing like the etiquette for synchronous learning time, like have it what you have with you, what you have on, what tabs you have open on your computer. So Pear Deck might be one of them if you're using that, but also it seems pretty easy for teachers to use. We have a lot of teachers that their tech skills are not really great.
Okay.
And so they're very intimidated by a lot of things. And so having a few very user friendly, so they're just going to get in there, make their little slide, put the question, and then send the code to the kids. So the Pear Deck's really good. I've seen that a few times. Flipgrid's another one I'm looking at. So yeah, this was helpful with that, just because you went through some of and the Edu Protocols, I think I want to try to push out to teachers. The website, I was told in another webinar that it's before you buy the books, except for that $2.99, which I just did. Before you buy the books, use the website, just because there's templates there. And then if you want to delve into it more than that, then go get the books.
Absolutely. I would say so. The templates, educationprotocols.com/ I think he has it as templates. It's very, very good. Very good. What you just said too, less is more right now. Sometimes we overwhelm teachers because we want to give them all the good things. And then it's like, uh-oh, we've just overwhelmed. Have your teachers use 1, 2, or 3 at the most, and hone that skill, help them build that confidence. I even tell teachers right now, practice with family members.
That's what
That's,
I've been trying to get teachers. I say,
yeah.
set up Google Classroom. I gave one teacher a schedule and I said, do a week of Google Classroom, a week of Seesaw, a week of Zoom, set it up, send me the code. I will join as a student so you can practice with me, but I can't even get her to do that. So it's going to be a struggle for some of our teachers in our district. And so giving them, yes, not too many choices because they're overwhelming, but saying, here, you're already using this, just add this to it.
Yes, I agree. You're spot on 100%. And less is more right now. We just had some great teacher friends. Diane, I want to give you a shout out. She's done a great job adding in HyperDoc templates too. HyperDoc templates can be used within your Google Suite or within your Microsoft. That's the beauty of either tool, whatever you choose to do. And the how-to Zoom videos, yeah, there's so much out there that everybody has shared. Everybody wants to help. And I think that's what the beauty of this is. And there's no way that we can know it all. Oh, yes, yay! That's awesome. That is good. And there's so many free HyperDocs that are out there that teachers are so willing to create and make. It's great. Let's see. We have, yeah, some of you said you love, love, love Pear Deck. I do too. The thing that teacher friends, right now, it's still free. There's going to be a cost futuristically. We know that, but there's always going to be a free part that you can use. They have built in a massive amount of social emotional learning templates. If you haven't seen those in the lessons, you've got to tap into them. They're building more. That's the bonus right now with Pear Deck. They know that we need to focus on relationships first, and then the content can come and follow as well too.
You know, the other thing that I think teachers really need to try to learn and do a lot is the screencasting.
Oh, yeah.
And because if you have your kids that are not in your class, you need to screencast like all your procedures. And if you can, get the same device the kids are using, because I don't have a Chromebook, but the kids are using Chromebooks. I screencast from a student Chromebook so that so their screens will look like what my screencast looks like. And that helps also the parents. I made a bunch of screencasts for parents. But doing it on the same device is really helpful.
You know what? That makes total sense, because then you're building your confidence also. If you're using a Chromebook versus somebody else is using a different type of laptop, it's just a little bit different is that environment, which makes it easy. When you also said, Lori, you also mentioned screen casting, and somebody else said, Javier, you said, is it time efficient to allow students to voice record their responses? Yes, it's great. So one way to tie that into both of what you're both saying, Flipgrid is a great way that a teacher can do a very brief video recording with an engaging prompt with a stimulating visual or a video. That's one way. And then kids can record their reflections. A second way is I absolutely adore Screencastify. I myself have the full version. As an educator, I can purchase it. I think it was free this summer, but now in order moving forward, you have to pay for it. So I think it's like $24.95. It's very reasonable. I use it almost every single day when I'm creating my content, and it can be shared to one of your social drives and instantly shared with kids. It can be embedded back into Microsoft Teams or Google Classroom, and it's really slick, and your kids figure it out right away. A third option, if you only want to record audio, and let's say you don't want to have to do any remix of anything, you can use Vocaroo. I don't know if any of you use Vocaroo, but Vocaroo can then, I'm going to bring it up and I'll put it in the back channel chat for you. Once you record your voice, it's like up to 3 minutes. So it's a small clip, a small snackable chunk, which is great. You can download it as an MP3, or you can get the QR code to it or a different type of social stream. And what I like about it is that it's quick, simple, and easy, and the kids love it. So there's Vocaroo. That's another free tool for you. Absolutely. Susan, thanks so much for joining us, dear friend. That's great. Okay, and Javier, you're using Google Classroom. Where can my students create their own backgrounds, just something plain? Oh, I personally, this is my own personalization. I love to use Canva. I'm going to put Canva on here. I do have a subscription because I create all my design graphics. There's a lot. You could use Adobe Spark is another type of Canvas creator. And there is an educational price for this too if you use Canva. I personally like to use it because it allows me to do really professional presentations. So I'll put that in. Hopefully it goes there. Okay, there it is. I really like the simplicity of it, and the kids that I've had in there before, especially if I've worked with middle school, high school kids, they're designing, they're creating. But then here's the other thing. You can create a background to put in Google Classroom right within Google Slides or Google Drawings. You can use the tools right there. Absolutely, that will work too.
Yeah, Google Draw. I was going to have my kids make their background in Google Draw.
Yes, I'd say yes. Use what you have, you know. Oh, and Carrie, thank you. Voki is a 1-minute talking avatar. Yes, for the free version. What fun, right? That's how fun it should be. When you mentioned Voki, that just reminds me of the 2 new tools that I've been working with, the Remo and then the Walkabouts. So we are going to futuristically, I don't think we're going to get out of this pandemic anytime soon, teacher friends, and we just have to be more creative, but make it fun. You know how you want fun in learning. We have to put that spin for our kids too, because if you think that they're bored or it's like too much overwhelming of the technology, find the balance. Do some unplugged activities, do some truly integrated activities, but then what we should be doing now, having our students step up to the plate, and they should be co-teaching and co-teaching with their peers, having them allowed to teach students too. This is our time to reinvent education. Kids want a voice in that learning, so let's move ahead with this. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, teacher friends, that you have? Oh, yeah, Lori, free Flipgrid lesson she's just added. That's brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, there are so many different ideas. Edpuzzle, Screencastify, Bloom, WeVideo. Diana, you're a golden gem. Thanks for sharing. Wonderful. Yeah, there's so much out there. But again, less is more. And any content we create right now, 5 minutes or under, even 3 minutes sometimes, that's plenty to get the conversation going, build background context, and just let those kids create and make as well. Okay. Yeah, absolutely, Jackie. Too many tools becomes overwhelming. Um, a choice board of tools, that we've done this in the past too. We've just created a choice board and say, if you really want to become an expert in something, choose 1 or 2 to start with. Get comfortable, build that confidence, work with your family members and showcase something personalized. Then you'll be more willing to use it in your classroom. Because if you're a middle school or high school teacher and you're working with 8 other staff members, and now all of these students have got 3 new tools in each classroom times 8 teachers, that's 24 tools for them. They are overwhelmed too. We have to think of their beautiful brains and not to overwhelm as well. Yes, less is more right now. We need to think about that. The other thing I would recommend, go back and ask your students how they learn best, where they learn best, and why they learn best, and have them identify their top 3 tools that help them be a responsible and active learner in their education world. Ask your kids. And you know what? That might also help of you identifying which tools to get the job done for you as a teacher. Absolutely. Okay. All right. I see Maria just joined us. Hi, Maria. We are just finishing up our hour-long webinar. I'm sorry it's gone after the fact already, teacher friends. But please note that when you joined this webinar today, that link is still active. So you should be able to get back into all of the resources that we shared today. Yeah, Jackie, it is. It's hard narrowing down the tools. There are so many amazing ones. But you know what some teachers do too? They choose specific tools, of course, to get the job done. And then each quarter, they may introduce 1, 2, or 3 more. They start out with a minimal amount at the beginning and then just increase as they go. And then even having the kids say, hey, I really like this one over that one because. And then the kids are sharing their perspective basically of which tools help them the most. And we should be asking our children more how they learn. They have to have a voice. It's their education, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm just trying to see if there's any more questions. Okay, absolutely, Maria. I'll put it in the back channel chat when if you scroll up to the top, I think you should be able to see it. I'll copy it in there one more time. But the entirety of the link today, teacher friends, I'll add that back in here. Wow, but a lot of you chatting on here. I hope I didn't miss any of your creative conversations. Okay. And let's go here. I'm going to copy this one more time. This should be good. This is being shared out of my OneDrive today. So in case if anybody did not, if it didn't open, let me know, because I can probably share it another way too if it's not working. Okay. There it is again. Okay. Thanks, Maria, for joining us at the very end. That's not a problem. Once again, if you want to continue the conversation, please feel free to email anytime. My email is naomi@naomiharm.org. You can follow me on Twitter @naomiharm. And I truly feel that we are just better together, you know, and we need to talk about these best practices, but greatly infused with social emotional learning instructional approaches, because we've got to build relationships first more than anything that happens. Oh, somebody asked, could we get a certificate? Yes, you can, not a problem. I will create one right after this. And what I can do, I can put it back in the chat here, or what you could do for me, if you don't mind, if you could email me directly if you'd like. Let me put it down here. And then you could email me, and then I can get it to you within the next half hour. Not a problem. Sometimes I've added it into my presentation. I didn't for this one because this was a brand new one. Okay. Students as creators of their futures. Okay, sounds good, Diana. Yeah. Okay. So if you'd like a certificate, just email me. There's my email address, and I can get it to you within the next half hour. That's not a problem. And I designed my certificate in Canva. So I practice what I preach. Okay, everyone, have a great day, and just take a moment tonight to turn the tech off, put your family first, do the brain healthy balance for yourselves too. It's really important because all of you are doing so much right now. Take a brain break for yourself and always put your family first no matter what. Okay, all right. I see just a few more comments maybe coming in. Okay, excellent. Okay, have a good one, everybody. We'll see you later.